Welcome to the final tournament centre of Pro Tour-Amsterdam 2010. Rich and BDM with you here. Listen, it has been an incredible day. We knew it would be when we saw the top 8. BDM, let's look at the quarterfinals, how it went, and we kick off. Let's go with the big headline matchup.
Well, I mean, the big headline was Kai Buda getting his 10th top 8, facing off against Brad Nelson. Kai was playing White Weenie, a deck designed by Hall of Famer, we now know, Gabriel Nassif. His opponent, Brad Nelson, was playing a Treehouse deck designed by, we now know, Hall of Famer Brian Kibler.
Utterly extraordinary. Nelson defeats Kai 3-2. Another 3-2 featured Brian Kibler, we now know, in the Hall of Fame. But Michael Jacob emerged from that one with his Grixis Mystical Teachings deck, 3-2. The other two, not quite so close.
No, not at all. Paul Rietzl was playing against Thomas Ma. Thomas was playing in his first ever Pro Tour event. The numbers suggested that Thomas Ma was a 90% favorite to win that match.
Wow.
90% favorite. He was favored through all the brackets. Paul Rietzl, he's been around the block a couple times. He's got some pretty talented friends to help him play test overnight. He found a way, and he 3-0'd through that portion of the bracket.
That was pretty extraordinary. Less extraordinary was the fact that Marijn Leibert of Belgium emerged in 4 games over Guillaume Wafatapa. Mystical Teachings brought Guillaume back to the top 8. He won Pro Tour Yokohama in 2007. Could not defeat counterspells and fast monsters, which is what the fish deck does. Guy. Counter the critical spell, and we were all done. So Marijn emerged 3-1 there. That brought us to semi-finals, and both of these, BDM, were sweeps.
This was unbelievable. I mean, we barely sat down. The seats had barely gotten warm, and we were already going back to break. Again, Paul Rietzl, 3-0 past Michael Jacobs. Again, Michael Jacob was the favorite in that match against Paul. I mean, at least according to the people we talked to, and Paul made short work of him. He said, if I can, he had the advantage of going first because he was higher in the standings. Yep. It was a new wrinkle that was added to the event, and he took advantage of it, came roaring out of the gates, and never looked back. 3-0 over Michael Jacob.
Meanwhile, Brad Nelson, he also went 3-0, this time against the fish deck of Marijn Leibert. Brad just did everything right, all very smooth. Marijn, nonetheless, a great performance, his best ever, 4th attempt in the Pro Tour top 8, made it to the semis, final next time, and then the win to go for. So then we get to the final. It is Brad Nelson against Paul Rietzl. Pretty fitting in a weekend that's been dominated by the American contingent. 5 of the top 8 were from America. They put both finalists in. BDM, what happened in the final?
It was a rematch of the quarterfinal that Brad faced. It was again Gabriel Nassif's White Weenie deck versus Brian Kibler's Treehouse deck. Brad fell down 0-2 in the quarters and fought back to 3-2 to win. He fell down 0-2 in the finals. He did not get another win. He fell 0-3 to Paul Rietzl. Paul Rietzl sweeps the top 8 of Pro Tour Amsterdam, 9-0. He is the first player to do that at a constructed Pro Tour. We saw Jeffrey Ciron do that a few years ago in London in limited, but it is quite another thing to do it with, tuned sideboards and, the deck you brought to the tournament. 9-0. Kudos to Paul Rietzl.
Well, talking of Paul Rietzl, there's a little space between me and BDM. I think it's time we brought in the latest Pro Tour champion. Here he is, Paul Rietzl. So many congratulations.
Paul.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you finally break through. You've been playing Magic for well more than half your life. When do you remember starting to play Magic?
Yeah, I think my babysitter bought me a pack of Revised in 1995 or 96, and I saw like a soul ring and a crawl where my mind started racing. So that's about my first Magic memory. Of course, he beat me with it for Auntie. So yeah, he took it from me. But that's a long time ago.
So how does it feel to finally, after all these years of playing Magic, all those crawl worms to Yavimaya worms over the years, how does it feel to finally win a Pro Tour after all these years about thinking about that?
It's really surreal. Somehow, despite no real major accomplishments, I've tricked myself into many cliques of great players from your move games with Darwin Castle and Rob Doherty and Dave Humphreys, the great Hall of Famers, to now I have a group of Gabriel Nassif and Brian Kibler and Patrick Chapin, of course my running mate Matt Sperling from Southern California, and of course many other people that I'm going to end up forgetting that are gracious enough to let me play test with them and play their decks.
Sure. And your agents at CAA and the producers at HBO.
And so I'm just have such an advantage over the other people who are in my position, and so it feels great. It's surreal. It's nothing that you'd ever expect to happen.
Inevitably, any Pro Tour win is fabulous, but you will have seen the standings with 5 and 4 rounds to go and seen that, you know, of the 50-odd names left in the running, 47 are known with global magic accomplishments. Sure. You've defeated one of the finest fields ever assembled. And the formats here have clearly been superb because the cream, topped by you, have risen to the top.
That's so funny to hear you say. I mean, I don't consider myself on the level of a Gabriel Nassif or a Kai Buda or a Brian Kibler or a Brad Nelson, who's going to win a Pro Tour himself one of these days. But
sure.
To be able to do it and to just, I mean, it's just one of those weekends where, you know, the opening draws are well. I play reasonably well when I need to, and the very few mistakes that I made, I didn't get burned for a single one. So it's just, I mean, that's what it takes, you know.
Last year in your first top 8, you had an okay draft, and I remember hearing you say to yourself, yeah, I can get there with this. And I thought, you liar, you are lying to yourself because you have to, because you've got the cards you're dealt.
Right.
But when you got 3rd, you were clearly pleased to have got 3rd because you knew after the draft,
sure,
really, that the win was out of reach. But at lunch today, you looked like a man who knew you had a box that contained 75 cards that could take you all the way.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that we really had a deck this time, and of course, Gabriel Nassif sort of led the process, but you know, many French, JLR, Kai Buda that worked on the deck. It just didn't have any bad matchups. There was no deck that I felt like I couldn't beat. And then, of course, you know, last night, just playing over and over again with Nassif and also Jelger Wiegersma, we broke the sideboarding for the quarterfinals, and you know, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that game 3 in the quarterfinals.
Right.
You kept a 1-land hand on the draw, I would assume.
Yes.
Tell us about that hand and why you kept it.
It was a fetch land, 2 Relic of Progenitus, a Figure of Destiny, a Spectral Procession, and 2 Ranger of Eos was the hand, which is not a very good hand, but I knew that he was going to leave in Tarmogoyfs, leave in actually go up to 4 Kitchen Finks, and he had, of course, the Punishing Fires. And I knew he was actually going to take out 2 Putrid Leeches based upon just like sort of rumors that were going around, and then also just looking at his deck list and sort of the math. And what we figured out, and what Nassif was worried about last night, was him actually boarding out Tarmogoyf, but I said, no way anyone boards out Tarmogoyf against an aggressive deck. It's just not going to happen. And he didn't board it out, and I knew that just Relic meant that he basically had, because I have Forge Center in my deck as well, to block his red creatures, he has 2 Putrid Leech to kill me the entire game. So Relic is just my most important card in the matchup, and I can play control. And so if I draw a land eventually, I should be able to come out of it as long as I have the Relic. And of course, my first draw step was Knight of the White Orchid, so when I drew the Flagstones the next turn, it just worked out, you know, perfectly.
BDM, it seems to me that there's a real theme this weekend, and it's the best players figuring out what's going on. We talked to Conley Woods. He built his deck by figuring out what's going on the night before. We talked to Guillaume Waffatapa in draft, and Brad Nelson sitting next to Guillaume Waffatapa, and he figures out what's going on, goes 6-0 in draft.
Even the Treehouse deck, which emerges here during the week before the event, based on the information people are seeing online and the information people are seeing from other people playtesting the format.
Absolutely, and then here we are, you get out of the quarterfinals, and then it's the theme always. The reason Kai Buda is the greatest player in the history of the game is because, quote, he doesn't lose on Sundays. He did today, but he still has 7 Pro Tour wins in 10 tries on Sunday. That is so far above the average, it's ridiculous, ridiculous. But Paul comes out of the unwinnable match in the quarterfinal by knowing what's going on, and now he's the man with the trophy, the check, the 25 pro points. It just doesn't get any better, does it?
It's unbelievable. I never imagined this. You don't think about it when you're playing the rounds, and then now that it's over, it hasn't hit me yet.
Yeah. And then how did it feel? You're here this weekend. You're playing a deck by your friend, designed by your friend Gabriel Nassif. Kai Buda is also playing that deck. Gabriel Nassif gets inducted into the Hall, announced that he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Brian Kibler, another friend of yours, Tomohiro Saito. How exciting was it to see your friends going into the Hall of Fame?
It's extremely exciting, and no two deserved it more than them. And they were both on my ballot, of course. And the Hall of Fame is just such an amazing honor, and they, of course, are at the very top of the list and the cream of the crop, and any ballot that didn't have them on it was probably a mistake. But there are a ton of other guys, from sort of the dinosaurs, as you say, from the early parts of the game, who are just barely missing out on these top 8 ballots the Hall of Fame ballots that clearly deserve it, like a Justin Gary, that I think eventually deserves his spot. That I hope to see that there's a catch-up year at some point coming up. Hopefully next year, because they're not going to get more memorable, they're going to get more forgotten, which is a shame, I think.
Right. Excellent. Now, just looking back, before Hawaii, your best Pro Tour finish was top 16 in Kobe.
Yeah.
It was Mirrodin block constructed.
That's right. Yeah.
And Mirrodin's sort of been on everybody's mind again.
Yep, I know.
This weekend.
We've done a little quick change here. You're looking very Phyrexian there, BDM.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
faction number
Thank you.
one.
Give you a little.
With the pen.
I would like to bring you into the world of Phyrexia.
Absolutely.
I don't want to stick you with.
Don't go Phyrexian.
No, I can, of course.
Mirren from Mirrodin, clearly. Phyrexian. I used to like you before you did
Got
that.
it.
Sorry, I infected him first.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, it's been an absolutely amazing weekend. The formats have been great. The city of Amsterdam and the country of the Netherlands have been great to us. Our next stop on the Pro Tour is the World Championships in Chiba, Japan. We can't wait. This guy could be shooting for level 8, second back-to-back top 8, just like Brad Nelson managed. Can we possibly see a top 8 finder? I sincerely doubt it, but you can bet we're going to have fun finding out. For the Pro Tour historian, Brian David Marshall, for the Pro Tour Amsterdam champion, Paul Rietzl, from myself, Rich Hagon. Bye.